Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us for another story here at Adrien Narrates. The title for this one goes like this. Mother-in-law brings my ex-husband to my wedding without telling me to ruin my wedding. Thinking my husband will appreciate her, but what he did next made me believe that I made the right choice by marrying him because I, 32 female, just recently got married to my husband Adrian, 35 male last week. We have been together for 4 years now, but have been friends for much longer, around 7 years. He treats me like I'm a queen and is my biggest support and source of encouragement. He motivates and inspires me to be the best version of myself every day. I'm so blessed to be married to him, even though it's just been a week. I could never repay him for the impact that he has had on my life, especially in the last few years. I really feel like I have made the best choice by marrying him, but the road to get here wasn't easy. Adrian is my second husband. I was married previously to Ian, 32 male. We had been married for 8 years before I finally came to my senses and left him. I'll get into the details later, but it wasn't an easy divorce, and we were not on good terms with each other. Things got very ugly. I guess I should start at the beginning. I admit, I'm a hopeless romantic. I believe in true love, and I absolutely adore stories of when couples who have known each other for ages or high school sweethearts end up together and live happily ever after. I guess that made me quite delusional, at least when I was younger, which ultimately led me to make important decisions and choices that I really shouldn't have made. I met Ian when we were in school. We were close friends initially, and that eventually blossomed into love by the time we were in high school. I had the biggest crush on him and was almost sure that he didn't like me back. But when he asked me out in our sophomore year, I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. Ian was my first boyfriend, and I truly loved him. He was funny and very charming, and he swept me off my feet. We dated throughout high school, and there were a few hiccups along the way. I once caught him kissing one of our classmates. He apologized, and he sounded so genuine that I had to give him another chance. This was the thing with Ian. He'd hurt me by flirting with other girls, and when I got mad, he told me that he was just doing it for fun and that it wasn't anything serious. Because he was so charming, he managed to convince me that everything was normal. I should have seen the red flags much earlier, but because I was so obsessed with the idea of love and being in a relationship, I completely ignored them. After high school, Ian and I moved in together. We were super young and wanted to start our lives together. I was very serious with Ian, and it seemed like he was invested in this relationship as well. So when he proposed to me on my 19th birthday, I said yes. My parents were completely against this. They said that we were too young, that we had so much more to learn, and that Ian was too immature. I went against all of them to support and defend him and stay by his side, even though everyone I knew said that I should take things slow. We got married in a small ceremony, attended by just a few of our friends. My parents refused to show up. I was so disappointed that they didn't come, but I was marrying the love of my life, and that made everything worth it. The first few years of our marriage were wonderful. We were both just 20, and it seemed like the world was our oyster. Neither of us went to college. However, I loved baking and cooking. So I tried getting a job at a restaurant, but ended up working as a barista in a local cafe, and Ian worked as a freelance photographer. We weren't making a ton of money, and we were barely able to afford the rent, especially because Ian didn't have a fixed salary, but we made it work. By around the third year of our marriage, things started going downhill. Ian wasn't getting any gigs anymore, and whenever he did manage to get a gig, like a wedding or a baby shower, he barely made anything. This put tons of pressure on me because at this point, we were living in a single income home. I started doubling my shift and even took up a second job at a clothing store nearby. The lack of jobs always put Ian in a bad mood. He would get all angry and worked up, and he would take out all his frustration on me. Work was hard enough. I used to go back home exhausted just to see that Ian had drunk one too many beers and then yelled at me because he wasn't getting work. I should have gotten help. Instead, I would bear the brunt of his anger and try my best to reassure him that everything would be alright. The Ian that I had known throughout high school was slowly disappearing and being replaced by a man that I didn't know. Drinking became a regular thing, and instead of actively going out and building contacts to get gigs, Ian would just sit at home and complain about everything while I was burning out because I was running the entire household by myself. I once suggested that he get a part-time job while he waited for gigs, but he got so angry that I even mentioned it. We got into a huge fight because he felt like I was making him feel useless and invalidated. He stormed out and didn't return for 2 whole days. This became a regular occurrence. Ian would get angry at the smallest things, leave home and not come back for hours. He started using up all the money I painstakingly saved to buy himself more alcohol. He didn't have a single good word to say about me, even though I was managing all the expenses and making sure he had food on the table, no matter how tired I was. There was no appreciation for all my efforts, and every time we spoke, it just led to an argument. I was running out of patience, but I felt that it was my duty to stand by him. That was what a marriage is, right? In good times and bad, in sickness and in health. But it seemed like the good times were never going to come. Ian stopped looking for jobs. He just sat at home all day. I stopped pushing him to do anything because I knew that it would just lead to another fight. I was barely making any money, and I had to think of ways to make more. I was speaking about this to one of my friends, and she told me that her sister was hosting a baby shower and wanted to order a cake and some sweet treats, but the bakery that she had ordered from had cancelled. She asked me if I could make it. Even though it was on short notice, I immediately agreed. I love baking, and she was willing to give me a fair amount of money. I baked the cake, cupcakes, and even little cake pops, and it was a grand success. Everyone at the baby shower loved it and asked for my contact details in case they wanted to order more. When I told them that I didn't really sell stuff and was just doing this as a favor, they all told me that I needed to start selling my goodies because they were really good. I was overwhelmed by the positive response. I went into this with absolutely no expectations, but the reception I got from everyone made me feel like I actually had something big on my hands. I still worked full-time at the cafe and store, but on weekends, I would bake a few goodies and start a small bake sale from home. And they would always sell out. Soon, neighbors and friends would call me to place orders and pay me way more than I was earning at work. One of my friends made a website for me to sell my goodies online, and that's when everything truly took off. I was getting so many orders that it was difficult for me to balance work and baking. So much that I had to quit both jobs. I was now baking full-time for big corporate events, making huge batch orders for companies and schools, and had slowly begun to accumulate a loyal customer base. It was getting hard to keep up with the demand, so I had to hire an employee to help me out. After I started my home bakery, there had been a considerable increase in income now, and things were looking better than ever. I tried to help Ian as much as I could. Whenever I got orders for weddings, I would always ask them if they could hire Ian as a photographer, and slowly, he started getting gigs again. I shared all my profits with Ian. Everything was 50-50, even though he didn't really do anything to help out. He was doing much better, and I didn't mind sharing. We were a team after all. About a year after starting my home bakery, business was booming. I was getting so many orders on a daily basis that I wasn't able to keep up with them in my small kitchen. The next logical step was to get a proper space with enough equipment so that I could meet demand. I started looking at spaces to rent, and that's when I met Adrian. He was a realtor and was helping me find a nice space to start my bakery. After a lot of searching, he managed to find me a beautiful space in the heart of the city for a very reasonable price. We became good friends during this process, and I was very thankful to him for getting me this deal. I began saving up and bought myself more ovens so that I could bake more. Adrian was a great help to me during this time. He helped design the layout, ship the furniture, and even make up a sign and logo for me. Ian, as usual, was no help at all. But on opening day, he acted as if he had done everything. Now that I had an actual physical bakery, it meant a lot of work. I barely spent time at home because I was so busy with the bakery. Adrian even helped me find a few more employees and help me out wherever he could. Ian was a little insecure because he felt that I didn't have time for him anymore. Whenever I came back home, he'd throw a tantrum, saying that now that I was successful, I was going to forget him. It was very annoying. Over the next 3 years, my bakery became a huge success. I was earning a good income and was able to move to a much bigger apartment. Ian had grown completely distant from me. It was as if there was no love between us at all. I found out that he had cheated on me multiple times throughout our relationship. Even during the first year of our marriage, he had never been loyal to me, and I was delusional to still be with him after so many years. It was so glaringly obvious that he was taking advantage of me, but for some reason, I kept ignoring it. We still shared all the income, but it was as if we were strangers living together in a loveless marriage. One day, I caught him in our bed with another woman, and this was my last straw. I kicked him out of the house and called Adrian. We had gotten very close over the years. I couldn't depend on Ian anymore. I didn't even love him anymore. But Adrian was my confidant and my support system, and he had been there for me when no one else was. He knew that Ian was no good for me and had advised me several times to leave him, but I never did. But that night, when he saw with tears in my eyes what Ian had done, he knew that it was over. I was going to divorce Ian. Whatever love we had between us was long gone, and moreover, I was sure that both Adrian and I had developed feelings for each other. The next year was an absolute nightmare. I filed for divorce even though Ian begged and pleaded for me not to. He apologized and said that he would never do this again. But I knew that he was only doing this because he had no job and I was his only source of money. Without me, he would have nothing. What followed was a nasty court battle. I spent so much money on legal fees and lost so much sleep over the divorce proceedings that I couldn't focus on my bakery. Adrian was with me every step of the way. Ian tried to flip the coin on me by telling the court that I was the one who was having an affair with Adrian and that he needed to be compensated for it. He made many more false accusations about how he was the one who founded the bakery and that he owned full equity in it, about how I stole funds from the bakery, and about how I emotionally abused him. This went on and on for months. By now, I had moved out of the apartment and wasn't even on speaking terms with Ian. After more than a year of court appointments and lawyers, Ian agreed to divorce me if I gave him full control of the bakery. He had attacked me where it hurt the most, but at that point, I was so done with all the crap that was going on that I agreed. If giving away my bakery was the only way that I could get rid of Ian, I would do it. I didn't want to waste any more time or money on him. The divorce was finalized after more than a year. I was finally free, even if that meant losing my beloved bakery. But I had done it once, and I would do it again. Adrian and I finally admitted that we had feelings for each other and got into a relationship. He was the complete opposite of Ian, always so supportive and encouraging. He promised me that everything would work out, and I trusted him more than anything. After Ian got control of the bakery, things went downhill. All my staff left in solidarity with me, and Ian had no one. All of my biggest clients also left. Ian had to hire new people and have a new menu, and everything he did failed because he had no idea how to run a business. Over the next few years, everything he did resulted in losses. He borrowed money from investors to make things work, but now he was in a load of debt. On the other hand, with Adrian's support, I started a new bakery with all my old staff and clients, and it was doing better than ever. Divorcing Ian was the best decision I ever made. When Adrian proposed to me, I had to say yes. I didn't know much about Ian's family, except that he was an only child, and his parents had been divorced for many years. I met her a few times, and she seemed very sweet and supportive, although she did come across as a little gullible sometimes. Her attitude towards us changed after we got engaged. She never told me directly, but my mother-in-law had told Adrian to leave me a few times since the engagement because I was quote-unquote bad news. I had no idea why she had this sudden change, but I let it slide, and we went ahead with the wedding as planned. On the wedding day, everything was perfect. I had a second chance at life with someone who actually loved me. Even my parents were happy. Just as I was about to walk down the aisle, Adrian rushed into my room, looking distressed, and asked me to wait. Confused, I looked out of the room to see that my mother-in-law was standing with none other than Ian. I couldn't understand why he was with her. Ian and Adrian seemed to be in a heated argument. When Ian saw me, he smirked. My mother-in-law looked at me with disgust. That's when she told me everything. Apparently, she had met Ian a few months ago at a party and they hit it off. She said that he was so chivalrous and smart, and it was love at first sight for both of them. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She went on to say that she and Ian started quote-unquote dating soon after, and when he came to know that I was marrying Adrian, he began to warn her. He told her that I was a money-hungry gold digger and that I stole all his wealth and then divorced him, leaving him with nothing. He also said that I was a ruthless woman who could never love anyone and that the only reason I was marrying Adrian was for his money, and once I got that, I would leave him too. I was shocked. Words failed me. This was why my mother-in-law was suddenly against the wedding. She said that she tried to warn Adrian, but he was adamant on marrying me, no matter how much she told him. So she decided to bring Ian here so that he could tell Adrian everything and call off the wedding. Then my mother-in-law said something that almost made me throw up. She said that a couple of weeks ago, Ian proposed to her. He said that he wanted to marry her and give her the love that she deserved, and she said yes. When I told my mother-in-law that Ian was just using her to get back at me, she shrieked at me and told me that I was jealous because I lost a gem of a man, and she was going to marry him. Nothing anybody said could change that. I couldn't believe how Ian was trying to ruin one of the happiest days of my life. I was just about to kick him out when Adrian stepped in. He told Ian that he knew everything that happened during our marriage, all the lying, cheating, and unemployment, how he was so insecure and possessive, and how during the divorce, he took away everything from me, especially my bakery, which I worked so hard to run. He then spoke to his mother and told her not to believe Ian, saying that he was just using her for her money because he had lost all the money that he had and was trying to ruin my life even after all these years. Ian and my mother-in-law started defending their relationship, saying that we were jealous and didn't want to see them happy. But Adrian was adamant. He tried explaining everything to his mother for so long, but she was so infatuated with Ian that even when we showed her proof of the cheating and the lying, she stood by him. Finally, when nothing was working and people were getting worried, Adrian called a few people and asked them to escort Ian and my mother-in-law out of the wedding. He told my mother-in-law that if she wished to attend the wedding, she had to leave Ian. But she said that she would rather be with her quote-unquote love than with a son who disrespects her. Before they could leave, Adrian called Ian over, and he did something that I wasn't expecting. Ian had put my bakery on sale because he was running a loss and was in major debt. Adrian pulled out some papers, signed them in front of his mother and Ian, and threw the papers on his face. When I looked at them, I saw that Adrian had bought back my bakery. I couldn't believe it. Adrian told me that he wanted it to be a surprise, but he couldn't stand the fact that Ian was here. He knew how much that place meant to me, and he had vowed to get it back. Ian looked stunned and humiliated, and that brought me so much joy. He had no option but to take the deal because he was drowning in debt. Even though Ian tried to ruin everything and my mother-in-law didn't attend the wedding, Adrian and I went ahead and are happier than ever. I have never been more sure that I chose the right man, and I just hope my mother-in-law comes to her senses and see how she's being used. I know Adrian is distraught because of his mother, but we haven't been able to contact either of them yet. Should I try talking to my mother-in-law and expose Ian? Hey guys, these past few weeks have been quite a roller coaster ride. I want to first thank all of you for all your wonderful messages. Yes, Adrian is a good man. Thank you for all the well wishes too. We are loving our married life together. However, what is sad is that my mother-in-law still doesn't believe us. Ian has brainwashed her into thinking that we are the bad ones. He has told her that we are terrible people and that we don't want to see her happy. And the worst part is that my mother-in-law believes everything he tells her. She was so desperate for love again after so many years that she is willing to disregard all of Ian's red flags. And honestly, it reminds me of myself. Ian can be very charming when he wants to. I spent years with him, trying to make up excuses for his terrible behavior. So, in a way, I understand my mother-in-law, but she needs to see the truth before he hurts her more. From what Adrian tells me, His mother is planning on marrying Ian, and I know that it's never going to happen. Ian was never planning to marry my mother-in-law. He just wanted to unnerve me on my wedding day. It's just a matter of time before he leaves her, and we'll have to deal with the consequences of that. Speaking of Ian, after Adrian bought back my bakery, he told me that Ian was still not able to repay all his debt. I honestly feel like he deserves it. As for me, the bakery is now officially mine again. It's going to take some time to renovate it and get it back to working standards because after shutting it down, Ian didn't do any maintenance at all. It's going to take a lot of work, but I love this place and want to bring it back to its original glory. I'll keep you updated. I told you that it was just a matter of time before Ian left my mother-in-law. This happened barely a month after my previous update. After all our attempts to try to warn my mother-in-law about Ian and failing, Adrian and I decided to just focus on our marriage and the bakery instead. However, a few nights ago, we got a call from my mother-in-law saying that Ian had packed all his things and left. He told her that this entire relationship was a big mistake and that he never loved her. He told her that he was just trying to ruin my marriage. Finally, my mother-in-law could see the truth that we had been trying to tell her for ages. I admit, I felt terrible. Ian had managed to ruin my life for so many years and had now ruined my mother-in-law's life too, just for revenge, which he didn't manage to get. We rushed over to mother-in-law's place and tried to comfort her as best we could. She was a mess. I genuinely think that she was in love with Ian, and I believe that she thought that he felt the same way and was actually going to marry her. My mother-in-law told me that Ian didn't even have the guts to tell her everything face to face. Instead, he emailed her telling her that he was leaving. She also apologized to Adrian and me by saying that she was so in love with him that she was trying to ignore all his warning signs. She said that after Ian left, she began to see that he never truly loved her and never really gave her any affection. They hadn't even kissed, but she tried to ignore everything for him, even went against the word of her son. We calmed her down and told her that we forgave her. Honestly, I did forgive her. I was like her once, but I am never going to forgive Ian for what he did to her. He used her like a pawn in his game. I'm disgusted. Honestly, I'm just glad that my mother-in-law finally sees him for who he really is. It's been a couple of days now, and we have no idea where Ian is, and I don't think we want to know either. My mother-in-law is on speaking terms with us again, but she's still heartbroken. I hope we never hear from him again. He has caused us enough pain for a lifetime. Hey everyone, it's been ages, almost 3 to 4 months. I just want to give you all a quick update. We haven't heard from Ian since he left, and thank God for that. My mother-in-law was dejected for a few months, but she's doing much better now. She's actually been a great help to me while setting up the bakery. We have been open for 2 months now, and everything is going great. I even managed to get back a few of my old employees. My mother-in-law is also working at the bakery. She's the manager and is doing a pretty great job at it. We have gotten closer these past few months, and I am glad to have both her and Adrian in my life. Even though Ian tried to divide us, we have become closer than ever. Overall, everything has been going great these past few months, and we hope that it continues. P.S. We have a little bun in the oven. Baby coming summer next year. We would appreciate your prayers. And that was it for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Smash that like button and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again. We'll be seeing you in the next one.